I mean good change in Egypt, will open the floodgates of Arab spirit in the streets to actually get rid of most of the regimes that have been practicing corruption, and they have been not delivering services to their people like they should have, and they've taken unacceptable positions in different political issues. So therefore, I think still that Egypt is the major place to look for, and I believe that the change that has already happened in Egypt will be followed by bigger change in other countries.
Okay, let's go to Anas Qatish in Boston. Anas, I want to ask you about a big non-Arab power that in many ways is at the heart of all events related to the Middle East, Iran. Do you think that the Iranian leadership has been disingenuous here because they're championing and claiming the protesters, yet they have their own problems with regards to political dissidents and an internal crackdown on political agitation?
I think it's very understandable that the Iranian regime would be cheering on the Egyptian protesters. After all, the Mubarak regime was a natural enemy, let's say, of Iran, along with maybe Saudi. And for Iran, if Mubarak goes down, it's more likely that whoever succeeds him will be a better ally, let's say. So it's perfectly normal that the Iranian regime are supporting them. And just today they announced that they did not, from Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, have announced that he was late on announcing support for Egyptian protesters because they were afraid that they would be linked with outside forces, whether it be Hezbollah, Iran, or Hamas, or even Israel or the U.S., as the governmental state TV in Egypt is trying to promote.
Yeah, I mean, this is what makes it all the more fascinating, because it's not just state relations, it's state and non-state actors that come into the mix with regards to every uprising and revolt in the region. Let's go to Khalid Loam. Khalid, we keep focusing on the political heads of state in each country and their similarities. What about the armies? Would we possibly see the armies of other countries if there's a massive Egypt-like or Tunisia-like revolt? Would we see the armies taking a similar role to the role we saw in Tunisia and Egypt?
The role that you see the Tunisian military taking, I think, owes to the very specific context that Tunisia's uprising took place and the very specific nature of their military. In a country like Algeria, a country like Libya, where the military really is very close to the political leadership and in some ways is the political leadership, I think you can trust that these militaries will not tolerate a deviating course. In Algeria in particular, you see that the political decision makers are heavily drawn from the military and have been ever since the 1960s. In many cases are long serving and have been at the helm of power since at least 1990. So I would look at these countries as having a very heavy military influence already, and I would argue that the role that the Egyptian military has played has been is rather instructive. That they have been sort of stepping into the fray behind the scenes and trying to steer the political development in a direction that preserves the regime rather than offers a fundamental concession to the crowds. Currently, or I should say last month when we had the uprisings in Algeria, you saw that the military was hesitant to become involved directly because in the past the military's involvement in politics has been much more overt and has been associated with very severe repression. And there's an emphasis on using the police forces, keeping casualties down, things like that. And ultimately, when you put the military into the streets or the military becomes involved in politics, what that really means is that the civilian leaders have lost control. And I don't think that you'll see a lot of militaries trying to portray that image, but I think that if it comes down to it, you will see military crackdowns if things get completely out of hand. But I don't see it in the cards at this moment particularly.
Okay, there's less than a minute left on the program. Let's get final comments from Saaduddin Talib. Mr. Talib, with regards to the Yemeni military, how would you foresee it acting and reacting if the position of Ali Abdullah Saleh is under threat?
The military in Yemen is controlled by Ali Abdullah Saleh and his two sons and his other nephews, and therefore I see whatever power they can have in the military in case things like that happen, things like what has happened in Egypt happens in Yemen. I think much of the military will actually, which is already quite demoralized by the war that happened in Al-Houthi. The last word I want to say is
very
this.
briefly, please, sir.
What the Arab Street is asking for, very quickly, what the Arab Street is asking for is really a government that is accountable. And I just want to finalize with the words of Lord Acton when he said, "Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely." I think the people in all the Arab countries want an accountable,
articulately put
government, and they want.
Sir, I'm going to have to interrupt you because we have run out of time.
Free from corruption.
Articulately put with those final words,
Yes.
Sa'aduddin Talib, Anas Qatish, and Khalid Loom. Thank you very much for joining us on the Riz Khan Show, and thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you soon. Bye bye.
That shook the country to its core. A defiant president under siege from his people. As the protesters took charge of the streets, we look back at the events that are changing Egypt.
I will stay on the air if I can until the police come
in a special program, Al Jazeera gives you a day-by-day account from those that witnessed them firsthand. Egypt burning, at this time on Al Jazeera.
Now, the main stories here on Al Jazeera.
From the world to your phone. Al Jazeera Mobile.
New pictures of the violent demonstrations in Egypt show protesters on both sides suffered brutal attacks. Hello and welcome to Al Jazeera Live from Doha. I'm Nick Clark. More on those disturbing pictures coming up. Plus, on day 14, thousands of pro-democracy supporters hold a symbolic funeral for a journalist killed during the clashes. In other news, it's official. Southern Sudan will break away from the north following overwhelming support. And WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has appeared in court to fight extradition to Sweden. The US President Barack Obama says progress is being made between the Egyptian government and pro-democracy protesters, but thousands of people disagree, with many still on the streets calling for Hosni Mubarak to go. Meanwhile, new video has emerged of some of the most extreme violence in the capital last week. Andrew Simmons has more from Cairo. I should just say his report contains graphic images which may disturb some viewers.
A crowd of anti-government protesters surrounding a pro-Mubarak supporters bus that had driven at speed into their number earlier. It's late last Wednesday night. They try to turn the vehicle over, ripping open the driver's door. There's no escape.